of people, but very comforting, to be honest. Again, august company of panelists as well. So welcome, 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 welcome. And we're from all parts of the world, which is quite nice, if you think about it from a diversity and inclusion perspective, since on this panel we are also going to talk about technology and social responsibility. Now, I want to specifically stay away from getting too much into what we've already discussed during the 2.5 days of the conference that precedes us. But let me be very, very specific because I want to get this right. Corporate social responsibility, if I may have your attention, please, is a form of self-regulation employed by organizations to balance back their societal impact. Now, I want you to take a step back and think about this in your private lives, in how you interact with family, friends, businesses, partners, vendors, and your community at large. And that's maybe where we're going to focus our discussion. However, the new era of ESG is just a more measurable way with more funds going into the entire gambit of social responsibility. All right? Now, while a Coca-Cola as a brand from America would maybe use a lot of its corporate social responsibility or ESG commitments, so to speak, to fund some schools and districts in India, and also do a lot of water recycling in the way they use water in their manufacturing and bottling plants. And Apple, on the other hand, which is a consumer device, completely technology, right, is going to be buying mangrove forests to do carbon offsetting in India, and also have come up with the M1 and M2 chips, which are 52% efficient and also use cobalt and silicon. Now, that being said, I have one question to start with, to address to all our panelists, and I will start with Tomo-san,
yes,
if he will allow me. You've been part of a lot of media organizations, correct? And that means building a positive share of voice or reputation for the brand itself, which is where the corporate social responsibility element becomes superbly important. Because it's almost like the consumers who may be aware, which may be a smaller subset, but today, of course, that's changed, are watching if you walk your talk as a brand. So how have you, if you can share personal anecdotes, helped some of the brands that you've worked at via the companies that you've sort of handled media with?
So I'd like to say the right word and the right story and the right number. So my assistant Mirai, so is the translator. So can I speak? So.
So Tomo-san is going to be using the translator. Bear with us.
I'm also an editor of the editor-in-chief of the Lifehacker Japan. So and so can I speak in Japanese? So 僕はその日本でライフハッカージャパンの編集長を務めてきましたけれども、今僕らは情報化社会と社会的な責任という間の中でメディアは揺れています。Information and technology society we live in there. So that, andなのでどの情報が正確でどの情報が不正確なのか、fact and unfact. So アメリカ大統領選から一つのツイートから one tweet から collapsed the big company and so the country and so government, yeah, and so one tweet, so the panic and so attack and so the sometimes the rise up the military. So yeah, とにかくその一つのツイート一つの動画で、戦争が起きたり一つの会社が潰れたり、去年last year so FTX shock in Web3 and crypto world. So that 世界第2の取引所のクリプトの取引所の FTX の去年の破綻で、 仮想通貨っていうのの信用は一気に崩れましたし、and so I have a dream of the Web3, and so especially NFT is a good tool for creator or so artists. So in the internet world, so the content is basically freemium, but so the musician, movie director, and so droners, so illustrator, designer, fashion designer, product designer, and so have no income, so that by internet space, but so by NFT and so cryptocurrency, so we got the benefit by so the only so for example, if the cult musician, cult movie director, and cult writer, so the sometimes so the maybe so have so only just one 10,000 funds, but so 10,000 funds paid $10,000 for annually. So the for NFT art and so NFT music and so the NFT movie. So the creator and so artists live only their selves, and so only focus to creating and so the artists artwork. Yeah.
Okay, so as the former editor of Lifehacker Japan, I believe that the media is currently sort of shifting between information technology and social responsibility. And it's hard to determine what kind of information is accurate or not. It's very hard to determine the source. So, for example, a single tweet can impact an election, a presidential election, or it can destroy a company. And also, last year, with the FTX shock, cryptocurrency sort of demolished, and all trust has, it impacted what is the so-called trust. Currently, as an NFT artist and a Web3 app developer, I believe that there needs to be a space for creators and artists to thrive. And right now, the system is set up so that they don't have any income. I believe that with the power of the Web3, for example, cult writers or directors or artists can also sustain a living using open funding. So for example, if you have 10,000 supporters, if each artist has 10,000 supporters, each fan pays about $10,000, then they can make a living.
Okay. Mira, I'd also request you to sort of be louder
Oh,
because
I'm
you are
sorry.
pretty much the answer
Yes,
for
okay.
Tomo-san. Yes? So
Yes.
for the next one, thank
One
you.
more sentence. And
Yes.
as
できれば日本語で喋ってください。
そう、
はい
はいそしてテクノロジーの歴史を振り返れば、分かることなんですけれども、最新のテクノロジーというのは必ず軍事利用されます。つまり今起こっている戦争で使われているっていうのが最新のテクノロジーなわけです。そしてご存知のように皆さん、ユークレーンウォーがその戦場なわけです。でそこで、ニューエスト、ライティスト、AI、ロボティクス、ドローン、サテライトデータなどが大量に投下されているでしょう。わかりませんが、それは。
And another issue that we need to be concerned of when talking about social responsibility is that in the past, in the past, so history of technology has always been used for military purposes. And currently, I think that is like the biggest issue we need to be concerned about when it comes to talking about AI. I believe that with the war in Ukraine, for example, already we have drones and AIs and robotics being used and satellites as well without our knowledge, like behind our backs, they're being used. So that's a big issue that we need to be concerned about.
Okay, great perspective. So obviously Tomo-san speaks, being someone who's been in the media for a really long time, almost 2 decades. He speaks about asymmetry of information, technology and social responsibility highly regulated, or maybe concerned about what is being communicated more than who it's being communicated by. What would be your perspective, Sumit? And please, you can choose to answer as Sumit Srivastava from Virgin Mobiles, or you can probably sort of take the example of some of your past experiences and maybe help us with your perspective on social responsibility, either for your industry, from a corporate or business perspective. You could talk about this in your personal life as well. How do you give back?
I think there's a couple of things, right? So what he was referring to also comes back with technology and then responsibility of how technology is used, right? So when you look at, for example, you've got big tech, you've got the Googles, the Facebooks of the world that are constantly in the forefront of every news because there's a lot of misinformation spread. And then when you look at fintech companies, they're talking about financial inclusion, inclusivity. When you look at a Visa or a MasterCard, they're looking at building out sort of programs and pledges where they go into not just the mangrove forest, but they're also looking at fair share of equity, there's diversity and inclusion. They're buying into, when you've got data storage servers from a telco and a technology company, you're also then looking into carbon offsets, right? And so there's a lot of renewable sourcing of that energy, farms that are being built, that are being invested into. But I kind of feel like it's not one size fits all, right? So you've got everybody trying to do everything from carbon offsetting to financial inclusion to actually managing misinformation, diversity and inclusion. And how I think technology plays a part in it is because technology overall, right, regardless of which technology company you work for, I think it's an enabler, right? And it's an empowerer. And to a large extent, it's an equalizer, wherein it's not only about getting your voice out, but it's also creating that impact from a community, a business, and an ecosystem perspective. So I think that is super important. When we look at technology companies, one of the projects I did very recently, which even Richard Branson gave us a big shout out, was that essentially we took telcos and we said, when you look at telcos that have networks, large carbon emissions. So how do you go to not just neutral, but carbon negative by like 2030, right? And so we didn't just look at carbon offsets, but we said, how do you get consumers to be part of this journey with you? So some of the products that we built were slightly quirky and innovative, where we said, within the app, you know, consumers can basically, it was only 6 dirhams for the entire year, which is 50 fills a month, essentially. And we will have skin in the game. So we will basically match those 6 dirhams. And even if 25% of the base actually takes onto it, we've offset the entire carbon emission that we do on our network, right? So that's one way of doing it. When you look at products, merchandise, production, so how are you looking at energy costs from a plant, facility, warehousing perspective? How are you, SIM cards, for example, right? We're now looking at biodegradable SIM cards. Packaging has changed to paper and recyclable. So there's a lot of these things where big tech is now starting to look at these things with a lot more responsive perspective. And that obviously is full through, right? When you look at a PayPal, you look at a Visa, you look at a MasterCard, from what they're trying to do for entrepreneurs and startups and ecosystem communities, where they're trying to help build more financial inclusivity where there aren't banks, there aren't loans, right? And so this is where all of this is coming from a neobank perspective, an open bank perspective. When you look at Patagonia, actually, Patagonia is an American company. They make fashion brands, right, which is for hiking and trekking. One of the best examples of social responsibility. So a large percentage of their profit actually goes back to ecological sort of awareness, forestation, plantation. They look at it not from a revenue perspective, but you could buy a jacket today, come back 10 years later and still fix the zip. So I kind of feel like it's in their DNA, and you have to look at it from that perspective. Lululemon's another good example. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of people doing a lot of these things. At eBay, one of the things we did was from corporate social responsibility was we looked at capital lending. We looked at local SMB businesses that when e-commerce came about, they had brick and mortar stores. They knew nothing about being tech savvy, and so they were getting eaten up, right? And so we literally went into those markets, we invested in them. There was a huge program, it's in the news, it's called Retail Revival. We basically took over cities, we adopted cities that had smaller startups. So we invested, we helped them build out from physical to digital businesses that basically grows the economy, the ecosystem, and even just like awareness in general. So there's a lot that we can all do from that perspective.
Thank you. Hey, Hamza. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I literally feel like I'm hosting a talk show right now. You have to be really aware of the space. Hamza, you obviously work in electric vehicles right
Yes,
now, correct?
exactly.
Now, and I want to say something before I sort of ask you that question directly. And feel free to, of course, bring in all nuggets of knowledge, right?
Sure.
But I feel like if we didn't really notice the visible changes in climate or maybe material usage, et cetera, and we didn't evolve to the point that we are today, I mean, the funding for corporate social responsibility, or ESG as we call it, wouldn't have increased from 5% to now probably it's one of those mandates wherein you have to start by thinking that.
Yes.
Without going into the perils, the negatives, just about the opportunity that you see in electric vehicles, how you support the ecosystem, the work that you do,
Great.
and what excites you about this space.
Okay, so actually to start with, EVs nowadays, it represents the, let's say, the seed for the social responsibility of the companies to, let's say, implement solutions to the end customer that they can actually be part of this transformation towards, let's say, green lifestyle or towards the sustainability goals that are set. So one of the main opportunities that we see in the market that in order for the end customer to be confidently, let's say, considering the opportunity of, for example, for us, for buying an EV, they need to see a full ecosystem. They need to see that they are being supported by businesses, by government initiatives, and so on. There are many opportunities out there in the market, and this is one of the parts that our founding partner, who's Alawi Safi, and shout out for Alawi. So he started this company, he founded this company on this, let's say, on this principle, that we are looking to support the end customer, we're looking to support the community to be able to acquire and to be able to invest and crowd fund, if we would call it crowdfunding, the transformation towards green solutions. And that's actually something that we can see in real life as we are getting in the business. We have installed more than 3,500 chargers till now. So we have seen the exponential growth. In the past, before 2-3 years, we were installing around 10, 15 chargers a month. Now we are doing this a day. So this is really brilliant, and we can see that it's heading towards more and more of this. Now, if I may set an example for this, a very good example is His Highness Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber. So Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, and surprisingly, he's the head of ADNOC, and at the same time, he's the president of COP28. So this was a question that was asked lots of times. It was a criticism from other parties that how is a president of COP28 ahead of a petrol company? So this is actually what social responsibility is. This represents the main goal of social responsibility. And this question was answered by His Highness Sheikh Sayyid bin Zayed. So he said that we have the perfect person for the position, because if he knows how to deal with petrol, he knows how to transform to other sources. So he is the best candidate for this. And that's why they got him on board. And His Highness, he's now, mashallah, he's a minister. He's the head of ADNOC. He's the president of COP28. He's leading the transformation towards green life and the sustainability goals that are set internationally. And actually, we can see that UAE nowadays is actually leading in this. and it's trying to persuade other countries to come on board. And this is really brilliant. We can see the whole transformation, and we are actually, even as fully charged, we are looking to expand, and we are looking to get to another industries where we can actually give to that core value. And I would say this is what social responsibility, this is a very good example of what social responsibility needs to be.
Hamza, I'm very impressed with how simply you put this, because Sumit and me were literally having a little bit of a brawl outside, and I was trying to ask him this question: how do you walk the talk in real life, right? And he was like, well, I educate a lot of young people who need to be educated, and hopefully one day when I'm old, they will remember my good deeds.
It's a selfish need.
It's a selfish need. But I am in a similar position, right? So I used to work for Reliance, which is the largest industrials company in India as well. Obviously produces a lot of so-called industrial waste as well across the supply chain. And then I recently was heading consumerism, or well, customer experience and consumer as an industry at KPMG, while I am the judge for the United Nations Hult Prize competition, which talks about business ideas related to the SDGs. So it's such a divergent sort of skill set, but it's almost like if you pick up the naughtiest kid in school and make him the class monitor, it'll work out so well, isn't it? So the duality of life, perfect. Okay, we're getting somewhere with this discussion. How much time do we have? Can someone signal to me, please? We do? Okay. Thomason, back to you. One example of your favorite brand in the world who communicates social responsibility superbly well.
自分が好きなブランドでその社会的責任をちゃんと追求しているブランドって何かありますか？一つ。
僕が好きなブランドは社会的責任を負ってるのは企業ではなくて U2 っていうバンドですね、ロックバンドですね。彼らはミュージシャンであり、ボノは社会活動家であり、人の前に出る仕事、そして発言に責任があるという仕事をやっています。そして、2010年代で一番稼いでいるミュージシャンは U2 であり、グラミー賞最多ノミネートも U2 です。ボノは、911テロの後にのスーパーボウルでアメリカを励ましました。テロで亡くなった人たちの全ての名前を後ろのスクリーンで流して、彼は歌い、最後にジャケットをめくってアメリカの星条旗を見せて人々は涙しました。その時に U2 とボノはアメリカの人々の心を掴んだと僕は思っています。僕が好きなブランドは U2 です。
Not necessarily a company, but a person that I really like is the U2's Bono. And he's a social activist, and he is a performer. He made the highest income in 2010. I personally think he's a great example of someone who is socially responsible. When the 9/11 attacks happened, he held a concert and was there for the entire country, the U.S. He had everyone, all the people who died, their names on screen, held up the U.S. flag, and yes, so that's who I think is a great example.
As usual, and yeah, I figured that you've got him on the badge as well. That's such a nice answer. I think music unites people anyways in times of duress. We saw that in the Ukraine war times as well, so I think the artist community is very important.
今はそのクリエイターっていうのの定義がやっぱり昔はそのロックンロールとか、ウォーホルみたいな現代アーティストだったんだけど、今は起業家とか、投資家とか、エンジニアとかも僕はアーティストとかクリエイターだと思っていて、そういう人たちがバンドを組むようにスタートアップを組んでビジネスを起こしているっていう、僕はテックンロールって呼んでますね。
So I believe that right now it's not just musicians or artists who are the creators, it's the entrepreneurs and investors and engineers who are also as artists, and them getting together like a band is what I call tech and roll. So I think they are the ones who creatively can change the world.
Thomas-san, tell me this honestly. Did you ever think of running for president?
正直に
Your answers are on
教えてほ
point.
しいんですが、大統領選に出ようとか、選挙に出ようと思ったことありますか？
いつもそれを言われます。政治家にならないんですかとか、選挙に出ませんかって1年に4回ぐらい言われます。
This is the fourth time someone has asked me if I was going to be a politician or not.
Yeah. You know, I mean, maybe you should take that up.
ぜ
Not
ひ
too late.
検討してみてください。
Okay.
多分やらないと思いま
I
す
would。
なぜなら
probably not.
ボーノは選挙に出てないからです。
I will be happy to support you in your
ぜ
campaign.
ひ
Please give
そ
me a
の
call.
際はお声かけください。キャンペーンのサポートをします。
そしてちょっと言いたいこと
There's
があっ
one
て
more thing I want to
Yes.
add.
でそのブランドもそうだし、プラットフォーマーもそうですし、金融機関もそうなんですけど、通貨とか貨幣っていうのは、テクノロジーそのものなわけです。で今世紀僕らは紙とかコインを使わずにコンピューターの数字のやり取り、スマートフォンの数字のやり取りでお金をやり取りするようになりました。つまり金融機関とかブランドとかっていうのはテクノロジーと情報、デジタルデータありきなんですね。ですのでブランドもプラットフォーマーも金融機関も企業も私たちのことをもうすでに正確にかなり知っていると。でただ私たちが、彼らのお客さんであってマーケットであるために悪用しないだけで、けどしかしその悪用している企業や組織も世界に多くいるのも残念ながら真実です。
One more thing I want to add is that currently money is technology itself. So instead of exchanging currencies like coins and bills, we use numbers to make business happen. And the scary thing is that brands and platforms know who we are, but they just it's our conscience that doesn't allow us to use it for evil purposes. But what we need to be aware of is that there are evil worlds or evil
Bad actors.
areas, bad actors who can easily use that for evil purposes. So our data is being controlled by these brands, so we need to be aware of that.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to sort of land this and finish this, also allow everyone to sort of go back. Sumit, top brand who's got it right.
I think I just mentioned Patagonia. I think they're on point, their brand, their DNA, everything speaks to sustainability, everything speaks to corporate social responsibility, everything speaks to more ecosystem development and building. Patagonia.
Anything else across the countries that you've lived and worked at?
Patagonia pretty much is across the
Okay,
countries. that I
great.
work-
Wait, just checking. Someone must call him also. He seems to be very passionate. Why are you not working with them?
Because I'm in Dubai and they're in Dubai.
Okay, great. Hamza.
I think I made it clear.
No. You have to pick something else because then that's
Why?
a bias. That's a confirmation bias. Pick something which is not from your industry and something you admire.
Yeah, actually, ADNOC is not in my industry.
Okay, fine. We'll take that answer.
Yeah, because actually I do admire what they are doing, because nowadays they are transforming. They are looking into solutions, even in the petrol itself, and the drilling and all of this. They are looking for solutions that are green solutions, and it actually does have significant impact on the whole pollution and let's say eco-friendly stuff. So yeah, there is lots of things happening. And yeah, that's why I do think that ADNOC is setting a very great example in this.
Okay, thank you so much. Audience questions? The spelling of the organization you mentioned.
Patagonia.
Patagonia.
T-A.
P-A-T-A, yeah.
G-O-N-I-A.
G-O-I-N-A.
G-O-N-I-A. Gonia.
G-O-N-I-A, yeah. I got it. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? No? We good? Thank you so much for being so patient and also staying in the room. We really appreciate each one of you.
Thank you.
And you are so passionate, sir. Experience just watching the two of you do art on stage as well. Wonderful. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Hamza.
Thanks.
You've been so gracious. Pleasure. Thank you.